Screwtape Letters, letter 15. So this letter is all about the future. There has been a lull in the war, the European war that the humans are fighting, and therefore a corresponding lull in the patient's anxieties. He's not really worried about what's happening in the war because it's kind of at this plateau spot. So Screwtape is deciding whether Wormwood should lead his patient into a state of tortured fear about the future or of stupid confidence about the future. So since it's still unknown largely if he's going to go to war or not, to either make him completely afraid or very, very confident. So here we really are seeing, this is a lot about time as well. So kind of the things that God wants us to focus on, as well as the things that demons want us to focus on in regards to time. So humans live in time, but God has destined us for eternity. He therefore wants us to attend to eternity itself and to the present, right? So we should be thinking about when we die, after we die, that judgment that we'll see him face to face, and that we'll either spend eternity with him or eternity separated from him. These are things that God wants us to dwell on and to think about. Lent, remember your death, remember your dust, and to dust you shall return. So it's a major time to think about some of these things. When we think about eternity itself and also the present, this does allow us some sort of freedom, right? It allows us to understand, we talked about freedom being this ability to choose what's right. That ability and motivation to be free of things of earth, right? Even when we think about the fact that we're going to die, maybe that changes the way that I live today if I'm not overly concerned with the passing material things. And also of actuality, that if I'm able to think about eternity, if I'm able to think about the present, what I can do right now, that brings me really into a sense of the actual. It says that, again, God wants us to meditate on our union or separation from God for eternity, or he wants us to focus on the present voice. So what am I supposed to do today? Even in our prayer, the Our Father, right? Give us this day our daily bread, this idea that we should be concerned for this day, the things that we need to do. Now, demons either tempt humans to the past or to the future. He talks about how, there might be some people that might be good to tempt to the past, like a widow or a scholar. But it's of limited value, right? Living in the past isn't as helpful because it already happened. So to some extent, it is similar to eternity, right? They have some real knowledge of the past, and it has a determinate nature. Focusing on the future inflames both hope and fear. So this is a better tactic for the demons to use because it is unknown, right? So there's things that we hope for in the future, but there's things we're also afraid of. And this all centers on the fact that we don't know what's going to happen, right? And so this is least like eternity. This is least like reality. And a lot of times when we think about the future, not every single possibility is going to come true. And so we think about all these things that could happen. And if we thought about that rationally for a second, not all of these things can come true. Or sometimes we can get stuck just in daydreaming and obsessing over the future to such an extent that we're not living in the present. And what this is going to create is this idea of always looking for the next thing and this not being able to be satisfied in the present moment. So vices are also rooted in the future: lust, fear, avarice, ambition, right? So lust is, looking at someone, desiring this sexual union with them. And right, it says that in the moment you have the sin, that present moment comes with that is also shame and guilt. But we can lust for someone, and that means we can desire to be with them in the future. And so lust points and looks to the future when we're afraid of something. Now we can have present fears. This is talking, I think, more about maybe afraid of something that could happen to us. This is in the future. Avarice, greed, we desire this money, ambition, that eventually we want to have these great things in place and whatnot. So these vices are rooted in these future fulfillments, but they're vices right now, right? So if we're overly focused on having all the money in the world and being super successful, that's going to lead me to be a non-virtuous person right now in the present as I seek those things. So ultimately, God does want us to think of the future only to plan acts of justice and charity. Demons want us to be endlessly in the pursuit of future happiness, right? So to not be able to be satisfied by something right now, to enjoy what we're having right now, but to always be looking ahead, to be always saying, what's going to happen next? My happiness is dependent on something else, and so not being able to be fully present in the here and now.